Thanks for tuning in. You're watching MyCDLbuddy and I'm your host. Today we're going to show you how to do a pre-trip inspection on a Class B vehicle with air brakes. We're going to start off with the front of the truck, then the rear of the truck, your light check, and finally your in-cab. Let's get started. We're going to start your pre-trip inspection on your Class B vehicle with air brakes. When you do your CDL exam with the examiner, you either have to do the front of the truck, the rear of the truck, or a combination of both to get a full form. No matter what form you're chosen to do, you always have to do the light check and the in-cab to complete your pre-trip inspection. So let's start off with the front of the truck. The first thing we're going to do is look at the front of the vehicle from top to bottom. First, I'm going to check my clearance lights on my box and my cab. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper color. These clearance lights act as running lights when the truck is on and you have your headlights on or your marker lights running. Then we're going to check our headlights, both passenger and driver side. The headlights, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, clean and clear. They have 4 functions: headlights, high beams, signal lights, and emergency flashers. All the bulbs are not broken, not cracked, on secure, working properly. After we check our headlights, we're going to check under the vehicle, make sure there are no leaks under the vehicle or nothing hanging. Now we're going to move on to the engine compartment. I'm going to open up my hood to start the engine compartment check. Now we're going to move on to the passenger side of the engine compartment to get all the unique items first before we get to the driver's side. Now we're going to inspect the passenger side of the engine compartment first to check all the unique items on the vehicle. First thing I do a general overview of all the hoses, all the lines, make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, and there are no leaks anywhere. Second item I'm going to check is going to be my coolant reservoir. My coolant reservoir, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper level. The cap is on tight. It is not leaking anywhere. After I do my coolant reservoir, I'm going to get to my alternator. My alternator, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. It is belt driven. The belt, it is not broken, not cracked, on secure. Under the alternator, my next item that I have to inspect is my water pump. My water pump, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any fluid. This water pump is belt driven. I would check the belt, make sure it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. Now that I did all my unique items on the passenger side of the engine compartment, I'm going to walk around to the driver's side to do all the regular items on the truck. Now we're going to move on to do the driver's side of the engine compartment to do all the regular items on the pre-trip. First thing we're going to do, same thing as the passenger side. Check all the hoses, all the lines, make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, and not leaking. Make sure you check all the hoses and lines all over the engine compartment. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to move on and we're going to go to our oil dipstick, yellow in color. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. To check our oil, we will pull out our dipstick, wipe off our stick, put it back in, pull it back out to make sure it's at proper level. You do not have to do this, but you have to talk about it. Next item I'm going to check on my fluids is my power steering fluid reservoir. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. It is at proper level. The hose is on tight. It's not broken, not cracked, not leaking. Then we're going to check our cap to the power steering fluid reservoir. It's not broken, not cracked. It is on tight, and there is no leaks coming from the cap. If we follow the hoses from the power steering reservoir, follow the lines in the back of the engine compartment, you'll find your power steering pump. The power steering pump, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any fluids. And on this vehicle, the power steering pump, it is gear driven. Next to my power steering pump, which is kind of internally placed on this engine, is my air compressor. My air compressor, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any air, and it is also gear driven. Now we're going to check our power steering gearbox. The steering gearbox is not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any fluids. You would check all the hoses and all the lines that are on the steering gearbox to make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any fluid. Now we're going to check our frame. The frame, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, no illegal welds on our frame. After that, we're going to check our 3-piece steering linkage, which is attached to the gearbox. The 3-piece steering linkage, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, all the bolts are on tight. Now we're going to move on to our suspension on the truck. We're going to start off with our spring mounts, front and rear. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure. Attached to our mounts is our spring leafs. The spring leafs are not broken, not cracked, on secure, not scissoring. Next, we're going to check both of our U-bolts. Our U-bolts are not broken, not cracked, on secure. After our U-bolts, we're going to go into our shock absorber. The shock absorber, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any fluid. And the back rear of the spring leaf, we have our spring mount. The spring mount, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. Now we're done with our suspension. We're going to move on into our braking items, all the components for the braking. First, I'm going to check my braking line and hose. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any air. Then we're going to check our brake chamber. The brake chamber, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking air. Then we're going to check our slack adjuster and our push rod. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure. To check the adjustment, you have to release the brakes, make sure the vehicle is secure, and pull on the slack adjuster and make sure there is no more than 1 inch of play for proper brake adjustment. After we do that, we're going to move on and we're going to go inside of our wheel to check our brake drum. The brake drum, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. Next to the brake drum, we have our brake shoes, lining, or pads. The brake shoes are not broken, not cracked, on secure, and there is enough padding for it to be safe. After that, we're going to check our tire walls in front of the steer tires to make sure the tire is not broken, not cracked, not cut, not leaking any air. On the front tires, the steer tires, the tread depth has to be at least 4 3/32 of an inch at the minimum. After we check the tires, then we're going to check our rim. The rim, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, no illegal wells. Now we're going to check all our lug nuts to make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not loose. After our lug nuts, we're going to move on to our axle seal. The axle seal, it's not broken, not cracked, not leaking any fluids. We're going to find our valve stem on the wheel and make sure the valve stem, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, cap is tight. We would check our tire pressure with the valve stem to make sure there is at least 105 psi of air on the front tire. Now I'm going to close the hood and we're going to move on to the second form, which is the side of the vehicle on the pre-trip inspection. After closing my hood and locking my latches on both sides, now we're going to talk about the side of the vehicle. The side of the vehicle starts from the driver door to the end of the vehicle. It does include the underside of your vehicle, the rear axle on your vehicle, and the back of your vehicle. Once you're done with that, we're going to move on to our light check. Now I'm going to start the second form of the vehicle, starting with the driver door. The driver door, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. My mirror and bracket, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. The mirror lens is clean and clear, not broken, no cracks. My driver door handle functions properly. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. It opens and closes my door freely. Once I open my door, I'm going to check my door hinges. Make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. I will close my door and move on to my steps. My steps, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. There's no debris to slip on. Connected to my steps on the straps is my fuel tank. My fuel tank, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. There are no leaks coming from under my fuel tank. My fuel cap, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. It is on tight. It has a safety chain and rubber grommet, so there is no leaks coming from it. On top of my fuel tank, my fuel lines and hoses, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. They are not leaking. Next to my fuel tank, I have my battery box. I would open the battery box to check my batteries and connections. Make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. All the connections are tight and clean. Then I would close my box. On the exam, you don't actually have to open up the box, just talk about it. Now we're going to move on to the box. Start on the box from top to bottom and run down the side of the box. Now we're going to move on to do the side of the truck. We're going to start off with the top of the box. The marker lights, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. The front, side, and rear, they are proper color. They act as marker lights and running lights. The box, the front and the side, they're not broken, not cracked, it's on secure. There is no holes or daylight coming through the box. Our DOT reflective tape on the side of the box. It is clean and clear. It is on secure. Some box trucks have marker lights on the side of the truck. If yours does, please inspect it properly. Now let's move on to the underside of the vehicle and then get to the axle area. Now we're going to move on to the underside of the vehicle. We're going to move from top to bottom. First, we're going to check our frame. Our frame, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, no illegal welds. If we go under the vehicle, you have your drive shaft. Your drive shaft, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, no illegal welds. I'm going to start from the middle and then go out on my axle. On this vehicle, we have one axle. If you have a vehicle with two axles, just check one of them because they're actually duplicate items. So the examiner will want you to check only one axle on the rear of the vehicle. On this vehicle, first I'm going to check all my brake hoses and lines. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking any air. Then we're going to check our brake chamber. Our brake chamber, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking. Under our brake chamber, which is very hard to see, is our slack adjuster and our push rod. The slack adjuster and push rod are not broken, not cracked, on secure. You have to check them for proper brake adjustment by pulling on the slack adjuster, making sure there is less than 1 inch of play for proper brake adjustments. After that, we're going to move on to my suspension items. Let's start off with our front spring mount. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. My rear spring leafs, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not scissoring. Inside of my spring leaf area, we do have U-bolts. The U-bolts, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. And on the back of my spring leafs, I do have my spring mounts on the rear. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure. After we do our suspension, we're going to move on the inside of the wheel to check our brake drums and our brake pads. Our brake drum, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. Our brake pad, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. Proper amount of padding to be safe. Then we're going to check all our tires, sidewalls and fronts. The sidewalls on our tires, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, no holes, no cuts, no leaks. The front of our rear tires, we have to check the tread depth to make sure the tread depth is at least 2 3/32 of an inch at the minimum. On the rear tires, we have bud spacing. We have to make sure there is no dead animals, debris, or objects stuck inside of the bud spacing. Now we're going to move on to the front of the wheel and side of the tire. Don't forget to check the front sidewall of your tire. Make sure it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. There is no leaks. We're going to check our rim. Make sure our rim, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. No illegal welds. Check all our lug nuts. Make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not loose. You would check your axle seal on the rear. Make sure it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. There is no fluid leaking, and it is at proper level if you have a sight gauge. Also on this vehicle, we're going to check the valve stem on the rear of the wheel. Make sure the valve stem is not broken, not cracked, on secure, the cap is on tight. That's where we would check the tire pressure with a tire gauge to make sure it's at least at 105 PSI at the minimum. Then we're going to check our mud flap. Make sure the mud flap, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not hanging to the floor. There is a proper amount of clearance on the mud flap. Now we're going to move on to the rear of the vehicle to do the inspection on the back of the truck. Now we're going to inspect the rear of the vehicle. I usually start from top to bottom, not to miss any items. On this vehicle, on the top of the vehicle, we have our marker lights. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper color. They act as marker lights. The tail lights on both sides of the rear of the vehicle. The tail lights, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper color. They have many functions: tail lights, brake lights, running lights, signal lights, and emergency flashers. On the bottom of the vehicle, we have some more tail lights and our reverse light. They're not broken, not cracked, proper color, clean and clear, on secure, same functions. The DOT bumper, it's on secure, not broken, not cracked. It has 100% DOT tape, which is on clean and clear. On every truck, when you check the rear of the vehicle, make sure you have an opportunity to talk about or check the rear door and door handle. Make sure that the door, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. And also you can check the door handle, make sure it is working and it keeps the door locked, and make sure your door pivots up and down to open and close. Now we're going to move on to the unique side of the vehicle to see if there is any unique items that we might have missed. Now we're going to walk and make sure we did not miss any items on the unique side of the vehicle. The first item I spot is our exhaust system. The exhaust system, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. There are no leaks and no black soot coming out of it except at the tip. The next item that is unique is a side door on the side of the truck. The side door, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. The handle works properly and the door is secure. That's going to be the last item that is unique on this side of the truck. Just a note, some vehicles have DEF tanks. This vehicle does not. So if you do find a DEF tank, talk about it. Make sure it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. The lines have no leaks. There is no leaks under the tank and the cap is on tight. Now we're going to move on to do the external light operation check. We're going to start with the front of the vehicle on that portion. Now we're going to move on to do the external light operation check on the Class B vehicle. Once you're done with the front, rear, or full form of your inspection, your examiner will tell you we have to do a light check before we move on to the in-cab. I'm going to hop in the truck and show you how to conduct that. When you get in and out of the vehicle, you want to always make sure you use 3 points of contact to ensure safety to the driver. Once I'm in the truck, whether you did your front form, rear form, or full form, that's the light you will check. Today we're going to start with the front of the vehicle's light check. First thing I'm going to do after I close my door, make sure my window is open so I can hear the examiner and the examiner can hear me. Next, we're going to put our vehicle in electrical mode. Do not start your vehicle. Just put it on electric mode so your lights can function. I'm going to focus on the front of the vehicle's lights first. We have to make sure all the lights are working properly. Each light I turn on, the examiner will yell out if the light is working and I'm good to go to the next light. I usually move from left to right, so first thing I check is my left signal. The examiner will tell me that the left signal indicator is good. Then I'm going to move on to my right signal. The examiner will tell me the right signal indicator is working and it is good to go. Next thing I'm going to do is check my headlights. Turn on my headlight switch, make sure my headlights and my marker lights are all working. The examiner will tell you it is good if they are working. The last light that I want to check is going to be my high beams. My high beams, they are working. For the emergency light check, I'm going to check my 4-way emergency flashers. The examiner will tell you it is working, and those are all the lights you need to check for the front of your vehicle. Now, if you had a full form and you have to do the front and back, or you had the rear form during your inspection, your examiner will tell you we have to check the lights on the rear of the vehicle. Let's check those lights. First light you want to check on the rear of the vehicle is your brake light. You would push down on your brake pedal, make sure your brake lights are working. The examiner will tell you they are working, you're good to go to your next light. Next lights you want to check, just like on the front, left signal. The left signal indicator is working. Then you're going to check your right signal. Your right signal indicator is working. Your examiner will tell you that. After you check your right signal indicator, you want to turn on your headlights and make sure your running tail lights and all your marking lights are working. The examiner should tell you you are good. Then the last light you want to check on the rear of the vehicle is your emergency 4-way flashers, just like on the front. You turn them on and wait for the examiner to tell you that they are working. Once you're done with the light check, the examiner will tell you, sit in the truck, and they're going to hop in the truck to do the in-cab vehicle inspection with you. So let's get started on the in-cab. After completing your external light operation check, your examiner will tell you to sit tight in the truck. They're going to hop into the vehicle and read you instructions on your in-vehicle inspection and engine start portion. Now remember, when you do your in-cab, do not forget your braking test. That is part of your in-cab. Your examiner will not let you know that. You have to know that yourself. So let's start the in-cab. I usually move from left to right, not to miss any items. The first item on my list is going to be my seatbelt. My seatbelt, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, no cuts or frays. It buckles, unbuckles properly. It's secure. Now when you do your in-cab, please leave your seatbelt on. My driver's side mirror, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, clean and clear. It's adjusted properly to my view. My windshield, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, no illegal stickers impeding my view. My passenger side mirror, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, clean and clear, and there is no illegal stickers impeding my view. After I'm done with that, I'm going to talk about my safety equipment. The first thing we want to mention is our fire extinguisher. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper type, fully charged. It's not rolling around, it's secured to the floor. In the back of my cab, I have 3 emergency triangles. The reflective triangles are not broken, not cracked, on secure, clean and clear. Also, on top of my cubby, I have my emergency spare fuses. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper type. Now we're going to do our safe start on the truck. First thing we want to do, make sure our vehicle is in neutral, our foot's on the brake, our parking brake is out. Put the vehicle on electrical mode. Once you do that, your ABS light should come on and go off. If the ABS light stays on, you have an ABS problem. Now we want to start the truck. I'm going to push my clutch in and start my engine. Once I start my engine, first thing I'm going to do is all the items on my dashboard. I'm going to move from left to right, not to miss any items. First item, we're going to check our oil pressure gauge. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper level or rising. Water temperature gauge, not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper level or rising. My voltmeter. On this vehicle, my volts are digital, gotta read them. The volt gauge is not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper voltage level. My fuel gauge, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. I have enough fuel to make it to a fueling station or finish my trip. Connected to my fuel gauge is my def gauge. My def gauge is not broken, not cracked, on secure. The lights are reading at proper level. Last, we're going to do our air gauges, primary and secondary. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure, rising or full at proper level. Once we do that, I'm going to go by my steering wheel area, move from left to right. I'm going to check all my turn signal indicators and indicators on my dash. My left signal indicator, it's working properly. My right signal indicator, it is working properly. My high beams, they are working properly. Some trucks, you have to turn on your headlights to function the high beams. Also, my 4-way flashers, they are working properly. While I'm here, I'm going to check my windshield wipers and windshield washer fluid. It is spraying my windshield properly. The wipers are working, cleaning my windshield. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure to the vehicle. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to check my city horn, the electric horn, it is working, and my air horn. My air horn is properly working for my highway usage. Now what we're going to do, we're going to check our defrost and floor heat. I'm going to adjust my vents, turn on the fan, put on the heater mode, check that my defrost is working, which it is, I can feel it. And also my floor heat. The heat is coming through, I can feel it under by my feet. Now we're going to turn off our fans. Now we're going to jump into our braking test. The first brake test that I do is always the lab test. The lab test is the most important part of your pre-trip inspection. If you do this incorrectly or forget to do it, you automatically fail your test. Let's jump into our lab test. First, I will tell the examiner that I have full air in both of my air tanks, 100 psi or more at the minimum. Once I let the examiner know that, I'm going to turn off my vehicle, put the key on electrical mode, put my vehicle in gear, first gear preferably, and release my parking brake. Once the air stabilizes, we're going to start with step number 1, leaks. I'll hold my service brake down with my foot for 1 minute. I should not lose more than 3 psi of air in 1 minute as I hold my service brake down. I will either count the minute or ask the examiner to do that for me. Once the minute is up, we will check if we lost that 3 psi of air. My minute is up. I counted a minute. I did not lose more than 3 psi of air. Step number 2, we're going to fan our brakes to check for alarm. Around 60 to 40 psi, an alarm and or buzzer should come on to indicate a low air alarm on my air tanks. Let's start fanning our service brake. My alarm and buzzer did come on to indicate that I have low air in my tanks. That is a successful test. Now we're going to do the last and final step, which is the buttons, the emergency spring brake. I'll keep fanning the brake till around 20 to 40 psi till my button pops. When the button pops, that shows that my emergency spring brakes do work. My button did pop. That was a successful test. Now what we have to do, we have to start the truck back up, build the air back to 100 psi or more in both air tanks to conduct a service brake test and a parking brake test on the vehicle. So we're going to put our vehicle in neutral, make sure our parking brake is up, hold the service brake, push down on the clutch all the way to the floor, and start the truck. What I will do to assist the air is hold down my accelerator to around 10 to 15 RPM to build the air quicker on my air tanks. I have to build at least 100 psi of air or more before I step into the service brake test. My vehicle has reached 100 psi. It is almost full of air. Next braking test I'm going to do is a service brake. First thing I want to do is put my foot on the service brake, push in my clutch, hold down my service brake so the vehicle doesn't roll, release my parking brake, put the vehicle in first gear, let go of the clutch, let go of the brake, roll about 5 to 10 miles per hour or 10 or 20 feet, push down the clutch, hold the service brake down to make sure that the brakes do stop the vehicle, which they did. Also, my vehicle did not sway from left to right or right to left to indicate a suspension problem on the vehicle. Now we're going to put our vehicle back in neutral, hold the parking brake, let go of the clutch. Now we're going to conduct a parking brake test on this vehicle. We're going to push in the clutch, put our vehicle into a low gear, such as first or second gear, leave the parking brake on, and release the clutch slowly till we feel a tug. Once the vehicle tugs and it does not move, that indicates that the parking brake does work correctly. Now we're going to put the vehicle back in neutral, make sure the parking brake is on, which it is. We're going to turn off the engine, and now we have completed the in-vehicle inspection and all the braking tests, which are part of your in-cab. And I feel confident to tell my examiner that I'm done with my test. If you missed any items and you can think about any item before you tell your examiner you're done with your test, feel free to do so. They will let you go back on those items. Also, remember, if you do the lab test incorrectly, ask the examiner, can I start my lab test over? They will let you start it over, start the truck back up, build the air, start it over from scratch. You have to do the lab test correctly. I feel confident. I'm done with my pre-trip exam on my Class B vehicle, so I'm done with my test. Thanks for watching.